Hey guys, this is Nick. Welcome to Strange Spotting. For those of you who missed it, last week I published a video that garnered quite a bit of attention, at least for my standards. The main focus of that video was the analysis of this photo in order to determine its legitimacy, and I recommend you go watch it before this one if you want to avoid spoilers, so to speak. Alright, for those of you who are still here, that video also caused a bit of controversy as well as curiosity, so I think it's only fair to address some key remarks in a follow-up video. The first one would be a personal note. I am relatively new to the whole hater shtick, so I was taken aback a little. But I suppose there's no way to avoid that when dealing with hot topics, and the existence of undiscovered humanoid species is unquestionably a topic that stirs powerful emotions. Fortunately, I'd say the platform where I got the most flack was Reddit, while YouTube was a bit better. Nevertheless, let's move on with the points I want to address. The second one is the topic of biases. I don't mean to insult or rebuke anyone. I like to consider myself an observer, and human behavior phenomena fascinate me as much as mysterious cryptids, so I tend to not take such things on a personal level. What truly surprised me is how many comments had this kind of connotation. Fake, it's AI, it's just a gorilla. I'm not under the illusion that everyone should go to the same logical and analytical lens I go to in my videos, but I can't help thinking that there is something else at play here. I plan to make videos on this specific topic in the future, and it also happens to occupy a good portion of the book I am writing on the Bigfoot phenomenon. But I think there is a very specific and surprisingly simple answer to the question so often posed in YouTube videos, podcasts, movies and TV shows. Why haven't we found Bigfoot yet? For those of you who haven't seen the fantastic found footage horror film called Willow Creek, well, I thoroughly recommend it. But also, the question is immortalized by the female protagonist, asking her Bigfoot enthusiast boyfriend why we haven't found the body yet, and stating that it's the best explanation for it simply not existing. The boyfriend goes on to expound a few of the typical counter-arguments that Bigfoot believers use against such criticism, and they have merit, don't get me wrong, but I don't think the answer to the dilemma has anything to do with how quickly a corpse can decay inside forests with acidic soil. The reason why we haven't discovered Bigfoot or other cryptids yet lies within the human brain, which is a much greater mystery. The answer to the question why haven't we discovered Bigfoot yet is because we don't want to. By we, I don't mean the numerically negligible subset of humans on this planet who believe in it and devote time and energy to discover it. I mean the human race. The reason why I say this is not to defend my videos. My analysis could be flawed, but since I focus on objective elements and I believe in probabilistics, as you may have noticed by now, after a year of said video analysis, among the alleged video and photographic sightings of the most famous cryptid in the world I analyzed, I have found 2 that are most likely fake, 4 that have a high probability of being real, and 3 that have 0 probability of being fake, with this photo being one of them. Those 7 are enough evidence to support my opinion of Bigfoot being an extant biological creature. I realize, though, that others might not reach the same conclusions after independently examining the same videos and photos. I believe the key word here is examining. Whenever I approach a new piece of alleged evidence, I try to avoid having a preconceived notion of what it is and consciously force myself to entertain both possibilities. That to me is what constitutes science, or at least a rudimentary version of it. The fact that the observer is willing to silence emotions and look at facts, and spend as much intellectual energy to isolate and describe them, and most of all to double-guess themselves, because excessive certainty before analysis is a strong indication of biases at work. Why I decided to highlight collectively the comments that show the authors had an instinctive opinion. There are cognitive biases and there are cultural or learned biases. I'm afraid the real issue with not discovering Bigfoot yet is the fact that the majority of the population holds a belief system that values the consensus more than the observation. The scientific and cultural consensus is that there are no species left to discover in this world. My own personal consensus is that I'm willing to change my opinion depending on what facts I am presented with, and sometimes facts require quite a bit of work to come to light. I've been in conversations with close friends who reacted with scorn and ridicule to my videos and dismissed my observations straight away. I can't help but feel that ridicule and excessive certainty are a protection mechanism. Changing one's worldview is probably something that cannot happen overnight. The third point I'd like to make, closely related to the second, is that some of these friends, and since this is a common attitude, many of the reactions to the video dismiss the entire category of videos and photos as possible evidence of Bigfoot. I strongly disagree with this attitude. I think there is a common misconception about photo and video media. This misconception goes as follows. Any image and video can be manipulated with or without AI nowadays, so they are all worthless. I wonder if those who adopt this point of view have ever stopped for a moment to think about what pictures and motion pictures truly are. They are data stored on a physical support. Even though they are intangible, they are absolutely physical. A computer writing data on its volatile or permanent memory has no idea what it is writing, simply because, as of today, computers are not sentient. They are machines executing commands, hence the input-output phrase. What the computer records are pixel values. A sufficiently big number of pixels results in an image. The process through which the computer records the data has nothing to do with how the data was generated to begin with. There are two or more separate processes. An image can be produced through a photographic process, or through algorithms, or through various combinations of the two. Many pointed out that the lack of background info on the image invalidates the analysis. But how can something missing disprove something that is there? The data recorded in the file that constitutes this photo is not imaginary, and a lot of elements can be extrapolated from it. If anything, the lack of info can be a detracting point, but I don't see it as a logical argument to say that it disproves the image entirely. That said, after I published the video, there was a bit of a visceral response to it, and 3 different Bigfoot-related channels provided their own opinions on the photo itself, on my video analysis, and on my channel as well, namely Squatch-D TV, ThinkerThunker, and Bigfoot Input. Here are my replies to each one. I would like to first address the channel Squatch-D TV, even though their video concerning the Bigfoot Mug Shot is the last one published in chronological order, and the reason is that they made a significant discovery regarding the history of this photo. I'd like to point out that I've been following Squatch-D TV for a few months now, well before our mutual interest brought us to cross paths, and that they never mention or make any indirect reference to my channel. All they do is acknowledging that this photo has stirred the Bigfoot community pot, and they reach a different conclusion about it than mine, which is absolutely okay. I appreciate their contribution to the topic, and I do not in any way feel any animosity from them towards yours truly. The Squatch-D TV crew, which according to the channel description is comprised of 2 guys, did a much better job than mine in tracking down the photo's history to a previous step. After all, they've been around since 2006, and I suppose they have a wider network than I do to track down information, but that does not in any way diminish their merit. I'm afraid, though, I cannot agree with some of their assumptions and with their conclusions about the origin of this photo and about its nature. They verified that it was first published on the Expedition Bigfoot fan page group on June 20th, 2022 by a gentleman called Brian Ramsey. I hope it's okay if I mention his name because the post is public and can be seen by anyone without being part of the Facebook group. Squatch-D TV's line of reasoning is that any piece of alleged evidence means nothing without any background info attached, but I absolutely disagree with that. For the reasons I explained earlier, I think background info is one of the elements that can corroborate either the legitimacy or deceit implied in a media item. Think about it. Science produces archaeological finds all the time, and they hardly ever come with a note attached describing the origin of the item. If Squatch-D TV's principle were to be applied to paleontology, for instance, we should discard every single fossilized animal or skeleton. In reality, scientists work hard to investigate the origin of any item through the information embedded within, and by comparing it with other finds and the current body of knowledge. That's why I have a very different attitude towards cryptid-related photos, videos, and audio. They always possess at least some embedded information that the researcher can use, and the lack of background info is not sufficient reason to dismiss anything a priori. In this particular case, they are assuming that Brian Ramsey is the author of the image because he posted 2 more Bigfoot faces in the Facebook group and wrote a story for each photo. The Squatch-D host proceeds to spotlight that the very detailed eyewitness story attached to the photo is about a sighting through a night vision camera, and since the photo depicts daylight, this is enough reason to think the photo is fake. I sifted through all the comments on the post, and the OP never once says that this is his creation. He never replied to any of the comments. A quick look at Brian Ramsey's profile, and I noticed that his photos include a few Bigfoot faces, but not the incriminated one. Now I would like to show you the 2 other photos he posted in the group, plus a few more from his profile. You can download them from the profile directly or screenshot them from my video, and I encourage you to look at them next to our friend. They don't even compare in terms of details, morphological realism, lighting, and general cohesion. These are images that I would never have dedicated an entire video to, because it's extremely easy to tell that they are fake, whether created by AI or photo compositing. I don't think the conclusion Squatch-D TV gets to is a logical one. What I gathered from this is that Brian Ramsey simply posted some compelling eyewitness accounts coupled with random Bigfoot images he found on the web. What truly matters here is that the date to keep in mind is June 20th, 2022, 3 days before Colton Squatch Watch posted this photo on his profile. The fact that I have a divergent opinion on this matter should not in any way be interpreted as a negative evaluation of the channel Squatch-D TV. They make good videos, and I recommend you to check them out in case you haven't already. Now let's move on to another YouTube creator with a little less aplomb and goodwill. Okay, I guess this is what some of you have been waiting for. Last Sunday, it was brought to my attention that ThinkerThunker, a popular YouTuber whose channel is primarily dedicated to analyzing Bigfoot evidence, had published a video as a direct response to mine. In this video, TT, as his audience likes to call him, proceeds to not only give an alternative opinion on this photo, but to mock my channel and discredit my work. I thought long and hard about this, and despite my aversion to online disputes, I concluded that it's best to respond. The best course of action is to look at content first and form later. In other words, I will address his analysis here and his ridicule in the next session. TT's assessment relies on 6 main points. Number 1, a practical demonstration that AI can produce an image like this with highly detailed hair. Number 2, showing other AI-generated Bigfoot faces with photorealistic qualities. Number 3, demonstrating that this face has human proportions. Number 4, demonstrating that this face is asymmetrical. Number 5, showing that fur color can be altered with photo editing software. And number 6, showing that morphological features can be altered with photo editing software. I'd like to begin with TT's premises. I'm quite convinced that he didn't watch my video entirely because he takes bits and portions out of it without looking at the premises, the context, the methodology and process. And he avoids to address most of the main points I make in the video. What he does is showing random clips from my video, particularly the face ratio analysis with only the first senior individual and the probability assessment at less than half the video. Also, he doesn't clearly enunciate his opinion on how exactly the image was produced. I will now address each of his 6 main points. Number 1, AI prompt. TT proceeds to show the user interface of an AI software without saying which one, types Bigfoot face, uploads the image in question to be used in the prompt, adjusts the strength tolerance to 84%, and the software recreates the exact same image. Do you see anything wrong with this? He's trying to prove that AI can generate a photorealistic Bigfoot face with realistic hair by feeding it the image itself as a model. I will leave considerations of a different nature for later, but this doesn't prove in any way that the Bigfoot Mug Shot photo is AI generated, besides being a completely illogical approach. To prove that AI can generate an image like this, someone would need to generate one from scratch. Another serious fallacy in this little exercise is that TT doesn't even bother considering that this photo has been verified to exist at least since June 2022. The correct procedure would be to get the AI software available at that time to create an equivalent image from scratch. And here are the release dates of the three biggest text-to-image softwares as of today: Midjourney, July 12, 2022, Stable Diffusion, August 22, 2022, DALL-E 1, January 5, 2021, DALL-E 2, July 20, 2022, DALL-E 3, August 10, 2023. As you can see, the only main software available at the verified date was the first iteration of DALL-E, which had far less capabilities than the second and third iteration. So far, TT has not proved anything besides a certain degree of superficiality. I am still convinced that not even today's AI programs could create this image, but what was available on June 2022 could not even begin to approach this level of realism. This simple date, June 20, 2022, is enough to entirely dismiss the idea that this image is 100% AI generated, and to be very skeptical of the idea that this is a compositing of an AI image and a primate. If AI was bad at generating realistic faces in the first half of 2022, there's no reason why someone would want to composite a bad AI face with a primate. Besides, I've already showed in the video analysis that no ape species possesses a head like this. Let's move on to TT's second point. I was familiar with the artist Satanfudge long before TT's video. He is, first and foremost, a fantastic artist whose work, if you have even a mild interest in cryptids and mythology, I invite you to check out at satanfudge.com, regardless of the video at hand. This artist does primarily sketches, drawings and photo composites of Bigfoot faces, either for his personal passion or to create impressions from eyewitness reports. TT's argument is that you can check his website to see how many more realistic Bigfoot faces there are, and I invite you to not rely only on his opinion, but to actually check how many are equivalent to our Bigfoot Mug Shot in terms of realism. I can already tell you, no one. This has nothing to do with Satanfudge's skills as an artist, which are amazing. Our brains are capable to tell the difference, even when our conscious mind's judgment is clouded by an overconfident YouTuber. If you explore the entire website, you will not find a single Bigfoot face that could be mistaken as real after a bit of conscious, active observation. And that's because photo composites always have some detail that give away their nature: demarcation lines, uneven lighting in terms of direction and intensity, uneven resolution and details, and a general mismatch among the different parts that were put together through photo editing. What truly perplexes me is how ThinkerThunker scrolls through the page, saying that Satanfudge's method is to create composites of known primates, not using AI. He admits that our Bigfoot Mug Shot is not among them, but then picks one claiming it's very similar. I'm starting to wonder about TT's real discernment as a visual analyst at this point, or even about his good faith. This photo looks nothing like the one under scrutiny, and even someone with no photo editing experience can tell that it's fake. Besides, TT puts it next to a lower resolution screenshot of our guy, not the original photo. And this makes me wonder if he did it on purpose, knowing that the comparison is preposterous to somewhat mitigate the disparity in quality and realism. A little side note. One of the two photos posted by Brian Ramsey on the Expedition Bigfoot Facebook fan page is here, so we have established its origin and can surmise that he picked different images from around the web, not that he was a visual artist himself. This is ulterior reason to refute Squatch-D TV conclusions. On to the third point, face ratios. TT says that he used the method of resizing faces and drawing lines a decade ago, but he now has something much better due to the fact that the old method is prone to error because of perspective. He then draws 3 bars to correspond to the eye to nose distance, the eye's line to bottom of the nose distance, and bottom of the nose to mouth distance. Last, he resizes the 3 bars together to show that our mugshot Sasquatch doesn't match the famous albino Bigfoot, but it does match a human being. First of all, unless TT possesses a detailed taxonomical tree of Bigfoot, he cannot know for sure that the Pennsylvania white Bigfoot and the mugshot Bigfoot belong to the same species. We've all heard about the theory of different Sasquatch types, so this comparison, albeit interesting, holds no validity. As for the comparison with humans, this new method is not valid, because it's based on a false assumption. I've often referred to anthropometry in my videos, which is the science dealing with measuring the human body. It's been around since long before 2010, the year TT's channel opened, and it seems he's not well acquainted with its scientific findings. According to anthropometry, the longitudinal or vertical ratios are fixed in humans, but not the horizontal ones. This is quite intuitive, because there are people with larger and narrower shoulders, larger and narrower hips, necks, etc. I suppose this has to do with the force that most directly affects evolution, gravity. Our bodies need to have correct vertical proportions for all the organs to function as intended, but not horizontally. The organs where this can be quickly verified are the visual organs. I took 2 very famous male actors to prove this assumption wrong, Ryan Reynolds and Benedict Cumberbatch. I resized the 2 photos to make eyes and mouth center match horizontally, and I've drawn the usual lines. As you can see, the bottom of the nose corresponds as well, and I've therefore drawn 2 vertical bars to represent the 2 distances. The red bars and the green bars are identical. Now let's draw bars to represent the precise distance between the pupils for each. I use 2 different colors because, as you can see, they have different lengths. Here are the bars grouped for both actors and the precise lengths. As you can see, the blue bar is 13% greater than the purple one. TT's method is based on a false assumption, therefore his third point does not in any way disprove my original analysis. I would also argue that his method has another flaw. By considering only one eye, there could be errors due to asymmetries between the 2 sides of a face, which is an almost universal phenomenon. In essence, TT's 3-bar methods can be stretched to make any of his statements sound right, but I follow anthropometry and look only at vertical proportions. Besides, I always provide numbers on screen so that viewers can check if my calculations are correct. As ulterior proof of what I'm saying, here's our subject next to Ryan Reynolds, resized to make the eyes and mouth correspond. The bottom of the nose lines do not match, but guess who is a perfect match in terms of vertical ratios for our subject? The Pennsylvania white Bigfoot that TT used for his debunking. I guess they might belong to the same species after all.